impact on the world around me and the people around me. And so I became an industrial designer. And my first job was at Fuse Project. That's an industrial design company in San Francisco. It's a really cool place. They make amazing stuff, and they definitely have impact because the designs they make, everybody talks about. Like they would make a chandelier that's a couple of $100,000 and like huge and beautiful. But definitely, impactful. Even though if not a lot of people can afford it and feel that impact, but it's very impactful, right? And then my next job was at IDEO. I don't know. Is anybody here familiar with IDEO? So just to know how deep to go. Good. That's few. So IDEO is a company that's actually started here in the Bay Area, and now they're worldwide. It's a design company. They do physical products and services and all kinds of stuff. And at the core of what they do is human-centered design, meaning that they design products for such large markets where you have to go out and actually talk to the people to understand what these people are looking for, right? So it's not just a bunch of rich folks that want cool chandeliers. It's like, okay, no, actually, we're gonna make a laptop or a toothpaste or I don't know, stuff you find in the supermarket things that people, like millions of people, will buy. And that's when when it makes sense to go out and have conversations and try to understand what the real needs are. So that's where I learned about human-centered design. And that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. And then the social aspect is the last aspect that came on board for me. So this last year I worked for IDEO.org, which is the nonprofit part of IDEO. And basically it's the same thing, but only take this whole idea and apply it to design challenges in the developing world or around here, but in the social sector. Okay, so that's kind of me in a nutshell, and I guess it kind of makes sense for the challenge now, right? Because you guys are designing for social impact, and I'm gonna try to help you to understand how human-centeredness could become part of that impact. That's where it started for me, and that's what we want as designers, as engineers, as somebody who really wants to do something in this world. And impact, I think that's the more impact we have, the better, right? And that's what I kind of tried to explain with either you have do something really cool or for a few people, or something that helps a lot of people a little bit. There's different types of impact, and, but in the end of the day, when we create something, we always ask ourselves, how big is our impact? Generally, there's this kind of 3 buckets of ingredients that create impact, and any of these will help you raise the impact. Let me talk about them a little bit. I'll kind of backwards engineer it first. So I'll start with technology. And as I say that, I'll try to relate it to what you guys are doing, so it makes sense for you, because I don't want to just talk about this thing and then you're finally ready to go. No, let's try to see what's in this that you can really apply today and tomorrow. Okay. So technology, whatever you do should be feasible, right? Don't come up with something that is totally amazing and would solve the problem, but we don't have the technology to do it. Some engineers have to go off in a lab for years to develop this, right? No, let's do something that's possible to do. Something that's viable. So if your solution requires all these good people of Berkeley to come together and work for free for hours every day, it's a great idea, but it's not going to happen, right? It needs to be something that's self-sustaining, that's something that in the end of the day, you come up with something that also needs to have a business idea to a degree. Now, these 2 things, as much as they are important and difficult to achieve, a lot of the companies that are clients for me and for IDEO, they have these things, right? Because they're good, they're already making something. They have factories, they have technology, and they have people that have MBAs and such. But what they often miss is the human side of things. and that's where we come in, where I come in, and where I want to encourage you to also think about in these next 2 days. So how are people going to use this? Is this really going to address their need? Are they going to see why they should do this? Is this something that they will enjoy doing, or are they just not, are they just going to miss the point, right? And I think especially with this water situation right now, where I can tell you a million reasons why I'm not interested in doing this, right? Because what impact am I going to have? Because 80% of all this water is anyways wasted by the agriculture, right? So why would I even participate? It's not going to make a difference. Well, in your solution, there needs to be an understanding. You need to accept that. You need to accept what you hear from people. You need to find ways to make this, make it applicable and, I don't know, digestible by anybody, hopefully. So that's been said. Those are the main ingredients, and creating a product that has a lot of impact takes a lot of work, and it takes weeks and months and maybe years to develop this. Well, you guys have 24 hours or so, in case you don't plan to sleep tonight. So, no need to go super deep on this. No need to for now just try to be perfect in everything. But I will show you a few tools that you can choose from over this next couple of hours, really. So I'll show you the journey that product development takes, and I have picked a few things that I thought were really interesting for you and doable within this short time frame, and see this as tools in your toolbox, right? And you build something, and you don't always have to use all the tools when you build something. So even if you get together as a team and you find one tool that you can use, that's great, right? Don't feel like you have to check all these boxes, because it's going to take way too much time. It's going to take your attention away from actually making something. I don't want that. I think it would be bad advice. So just be humble and try to take a little bit from what I'm going to say. So this is it. I've tried to break down this journey in 3 steps, right? And it usually starts with a project brief. Anybody remembers what that is for this weekend? I hope so. So it was very clear, right? It was presented to us. It is something that we all get. It's totally doable. And now the most straightforward thing would be like to think about, okay, what's the solution? Okay, let's build a water tank. Let's build this. Let's build a website. Let's build something else. And the reality is, most likely your solution is going to be somewhat, mediocre. Because what this process suggests is to let go of all the kind of constraints of the business and the technical constraints for a little bit, just in the beginning, and really focus on people, and start by understanding what people would really, what they would be looking for in your solution. So you go from something that's very concrete, very obvious, to something that's much more abstract. It's much more talking. It's much more understanding. It's a synthesis. It's a process, and then you come back down to a solution that's executable. And then you can say, well, in the end of the day, it was a canister. In the end of the day, it was an app. In the end of the day, it was a service center. Whatever it is, but don't go there directly. Allow yourself to just let go of all these constraints and all the difficulty and hardness that comes with where we start. Okay, so these 3 steps. The first one, create empathy, learn, understand, talk to people, get inspired, go online, whatever you want to do, right? That's where you suck up energy. It doesn't suck up information. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's like everything is on, whatever makes sense to you. Obviously, at the core of human-centered design is talking to people, and we'll see how much that's possible for you in this short period of time, but I think it is. And I'll show you some easy ways how I think you can do it even now. Once we're done with this, usually that's a matter of weeks or months, but for you it's a matter of hours, minutes, right? So you move on to the second stage, and that's making sense of it. So now that you have collected all these things, well, let's share it as a team. Let's see what we've learned. What's on the table? What do we know now that we didn't know then when Martin was out there and spoke? And try to create a strategy from that. And then the last thing is bring it to life, right? That's when it comes down again. That's when we take all this information that's just in our heads and make it something that's actually something that we can communicate and make sense of and share with other people. Okay? Questions? Feel free to interrupt me. There's no reason why we should wait till the very end. I have already confused everybody. Okay, so let's go through these 3 stages in a little bit more depth. And this is, I think, as much information for you for later on as it is for this next 2 days. But I think it's interesting stuff, and you should know about it. So this first thing, when you talk to people, who do you talk to? How do you find these people that are worth talking to? Well, I mean, clearly you want to talk to your target group, right? Which is all the people in Berkeley, all the folks that would end up using your product, and that's true. I mean, you need to understand who they are and how they think about this issue and where they think they can help. And but the really interesting thing about this process is that we generally do qualitative research and not quantitative research. And what that means is that we talk to fewer people, but spend a little bit more time with them. So in this case, so for us that means we don't have to talk to thousands of people, even if we have weeks and months, but instead talk to a few people. And those people can be your target group, but they can be extremes. So on the one extreme, that is your Berkeley hippie, right? Like he or she is already living only with the water that she evaporates out of it. I don't know how, but you know, I don't know, waste. I don't even know all the things that she would do or he, but that's. But you can learn something from her, even though it's not the goal to get everybody to be like her. But she has found ways. I would say she. I just think of this like, I don't know, lady with flowers in her hair. But that's somebody who exists, right? And so it would be cool to talk to somebody like this because maybe she has done just a few little things that would be doable for anybody, and then we can just take this idea and make it something that's more digestible for the masses. And here's this other guy. He's a little bigger. He's maybe he's somebody in Walnut Creek in a suburb or so. But he's like, screw this whole water thing. I turn on my faucet, there's water, I don't care, right? Like, let's learn about these people. Let's learn about, like, what is it? Where are they? Why do they not care at all? Like, how is that even possible? Sorry to create these stereotypes. I don't mean to offend anybody, even though I probably have. But it's just kind of, what I want to say is, let's accept that these people are out there, and let's really understand what the and see them as inspiration, rather than just always going for the dead center. Next thing. Okay, now it gets really wordy. I'm sorry about this, but this is really because I just wanted to kind of hit a few things and give you something to run with. So again, talk to people, learn from individuals, and 2 things that you could try to do if you feel like you have less time. Interceptions. So you can talk to anybody. There's about 100 students, 200 students just in that hallway out there, right? Like, if you can grab their attention, just ask them a few questions, right? You don't need to have, set up a meeting and pay them and have them sign paperwork. No, you can just be quick and dirty and just get a few opinions. I'm telling you, it's so rich to talk to people. Because I've been in this situation before where I thought, I'm the cool designer, I have the idea, I know it, and I get it all. And then I show it to some folks and they're like, no, doesn't interest me at all because I don't have your background and I'm not into that kind of stuff. And the truth is, you're not designing for yourself. You're designing for for everybody. So talk to people, even if I think there's a lot of strength in it and beauty. In the end of the day, I mean that's what you want to do. You want to have impact and you want to involve these people. So okay, do this. Do it here. Do it if you think you can get better feedback if you go down to the liquor store at the corner. If you it's going to be different impact, a different response. It's different people, right? If you think you, I don't know, go to a BART station. If you, I don't know, just think what's quick and dirty. Where can you talk to people that might give you interesting feedback? An expert interview. So, do you know anybody who works on this? Do you know anybody, like a student who has already done some work in it? Do you know professors? Do you know? Can you go online? Can you find a helpline? Can you? It's Saturday, so I don't think there's everything's going to be open. But it's worth trying to get in touch with somebody who really knows a ton about it, and to learn about what's already out there and what's so you can build on this knowledge rather than reinventing the wheel. Okay, so both of these things are absolutely doable within the next couple of days. Sacrificial prototypes. So when tomorrow you'll have a solution of some sort, right? You'll have something that's either sits in front of you or you have your website or whatever it is. And I think the important thing is not to think that there's a design phase in this. No, the design is, the whole thing is design. So start to make something right away, right? I think the first thing that comes to me is it's water, right? So maybe if your idea was something, here's this bucket full of water that you now carry with you, let's just quickly check how heavy that bucket of water is, right? There's just a physicality to things, to your solution, and you can test that right away, rather than going through the entire workshop and in the end realize, oh gosh, this would require that everybody has to carry, 50 pounds from the bathroom to the kitchen every time they turn on the faucet, right? So start prototyping, start building things, break things, just be active and use your hands right away, and don't wait for it. Don't wait till to the very end, because you'll learn some things that it might be too late later on. There's not that. So by that I mean sometimes you don't need to make objects because maybe what you do is not a thing. Maybe it's more of a service. But maybe you can just make cards. So a lot of times when you talk to people, if you talk to somebody on the street and say hey, we want to help Berkeley preserve water, I mean they would say that's awesome, I want to help. Nobody's going to say, screw you, I think that's stupid. I mean, generally when you talk to people, they're happy to talk to them and they want to support you. And then if you say, would you help? Would you want to save water in general? Yes. Would you want to help save water in the kitchen? Yes. Would you help save water in the bathroom? Yes. Right. And in the end of the day, you're just I'm glad you're so motivated, but it doesn't give me a place to start. So it's good to have things to compare to, right? In this case, what if you had just a few cards and said okay, there's different ways. We can do it. We can do it in the kitchen. We can do it in the bathroom. We can do it in the garden. We can and say which one is more important to you. Which one would you rather work with, right? And that's just one example, but you can use this and you can use it for language, right? You can use it for we use it a lot for just fine-tuning people's interest. Do they want to talk about the water disaster or a water shortage or a water I don't know. Is it how much is the language you're going to use on your website? Is it positive or is it alarming, or is it you can, if you have something that people can compare to each other, they will be more likely to give you feedback rather than just if you just ask them, is this a good idea? Because most likely they'll just say yes, and you're not going to learn anything from it. Okay, so if you have more than one prototype, if you have more than one things that you can put in front of them, that's always a good thing, because you'll be able to improve. Battery is running low. Anybody has a power cord to plug in? This is the same slide. Close this. Analogous observations. So that's an interesting one. That's always kind of fun. So here the idea is, okay, you know what? Let's not talk about water at all here. Let's just think about it, what this is for a minute, because this really means, gosh, I have to change my behavior. I have to give something up. I have to do less of something that I just do every day. And that is something that's really hard and difficult, but there's other times in life when we do this. Savings, for example, money, that's something that we always deal with, right? Like how can I used to spend too much money and I'm in debt now. Like what have banks, what have other organizations found? What kind of solutions have they found? What kind of incentives do they have out there? What kind of safety nets do exist there? You're dieting, right? Eating less. That's a really hard one. A lot of people are thinking about that. Those are things where you can just look into how do different diets work? What kind of aspects are important there that make those things differentiate these things from each other? Because those human elements, those mechanisms to involve and engage and motivate people, they will be the same, right? So it could be really interesting to just sneak into some of these other industries. And if I haven't said it enough, create empathy. So the title of this section, and I've just thought I have to say it again, because in the end of the day, you're designing for people, you're talking to people. If you don't like these people, if you don't like people in general, you'll have a problem, okay? So really believe in what you do, right? If in the end of the day, you're like, we came up with this, but I don't know, I don't even live here, right? Like, these people of Berkeley, they said that's what they want, right? Like, no, in the end of the day, this only makes sense if you really associate. And when you talk to people, just look into their eyes and really, they give you their time, and they hope, they put their hope in your hands. And there's something really beautiful, empowering, and that's why you're here, that's where you want to learn, that's where you want to have impact in the world, right? You want to do something good. So it's more than just a job, it's more than just a way to spend your weekend. This is how good stuff starts. Second piece, and I promise this one is going to be a lot shorter. So synthesis. Again, this is a really complex thing, but in the end of the day, for us, it means, okay, you all go out, you all find a few things, let's come together as a team. What have we found? What are themes? You've talked to some people here, you've looked online, you've brainstormed, whatever. Okay, are there some buckets that we can think about? And it doesn't matter what these buckets are. Is it different spaces in the home? Is it different people in the home? Like, how do we organize it? It's all up to you. There's no rules to this madness. But in the end of the day, you want to have a few things you can focus on. And hopefully you found, gosh, you know what everybody said. We realize we still shower too long. Maybe everybody says that, and then that's a powerful thing, and then that becomes a theme for you, and that's something really. Let's continue to think about that, and then that kind of leads into this next thing, into the insights, right? So this is kind of like the essence. Like once you have all this information, you squeeze it, and there's like a few things popping out at the bottom of it. When you do your presentation here tomorrow, you'll have learned a lot. You'll feel like you want to share a lot because you're so much smarter than you are now, right? But the truth is, people who are going to listen, they're not going to be able to take in everything. In the end of the day, think about the three things that you're really excited about. Like, what are the things not only they're important, but they surprised you. They were something that you didn't know before, that you don't know how important they are, but they seem like, wow, they're just unexpected. And those are the things that kind of like the little diamonds that you find, right? So pick those things that instead of bringing everything and sharing how much work you did and how good of a student you were, like, no, bring back what kind of blew your mind a little bit, where you were like, we didn't stop talking about this because this just seemed so important, right? So boil it down to this. That's the kind of stuff that, if you call your friend tonight, or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and or your parents, and you're like, so we did all these things, and believe it or not, like, did you think this we would find out about this? Like, just try to find these things. It can be pretty short and small. And then you take those things and you make a question out of it. So let's say people shower too long, right? And despite the water shortage, everybody still showers too long. And then the question could be like, how might we help people to remind, or how can we help people how can we remind people to shower less long, or whatever, just as an example, right? And then that question becomes the beginning of the brainstorm. So when you formulate those questions, don't make them too complicated and long, so nobody gets them. Like, they should be pretty easy and open up like your brain and give you some ideas. But they shouldn't be too wide. If it's like, for example, if you just brainstorm now, how can we solve the water issue for Berkeley? Well, that's a little wide. Like, that doesn't give you a starting point, right? So you kind of want to find that middle ground where it's easy to focus on something, but not too limiting. All right, so that would be how you get to your brainstorms and to your concepts. And then making it real. So that's a prototype, and I think we've heard a little bit about this earlier. I'm not gonna interfere with this too much. I just want to inspire you to things you can do, and making a prototype is huge, because it's like having a slide without a picture, right? It kind of sucks. Like, you'd rather have a picture there because it would be so much more interesting. And it's the same for your presentation. Like, ideally, you want to be as visual as possible. So make something. It's easy to talk about. It's like, maybe you think your idea is really cool, but then you realize actually the backside doesn't work at all, and maybe it just helps you to find issues. It helps you to share ideas. It helps you to improve on your ideas. It allows you to compare two things again when you have two prototypes. And lastly, when you make prototypes, you make the whole idea about a prototype is it's just one prototype solves one thing. So, for example, you want to know how heavy this container is that you designed. Well, let's just make something that's as heavy as this container. It doesn't need to look like that container. It doesn't need to feel like that container. It doesn't have to have the right color, right? Because you just want to get to one answer. And then, so that would be like just a prototype for weight. You can have a prototype that's just about functionality, that works like it, but it doesn't look like it. And then you have another prototype that looks like it, but it doesn't necessarily work yet. And that is all so you can really focus on one aspect of your idea, rather than trying to get stuck, right? Because if you have to build this thing and it doesn't look cool yet, and then you make it cooler, but you still don't know if it even works, it's just going to take a lot more time. So allow yourself to make something that works in some aspects or not in another. Website, right? Like think about sketch out what the information on it is, then sketch out what the flow of it is, and the third one is like, this is what it should look like, or this is the aesthetic of it, right? So whatever you do, just don't burden yourself with creating something that's perfect. Like, everybody knows this is a short period of time, and I mean, this is true for week-long and month-long projects, right? You always want to focus your energy on one thing at a time. And then you can prototype everything. So, you know, I'm a product designer, so I always think of this thing that sits in front of me. But really, especially in this case, I think it can be different things, right? It can be space, place where people meet, place where people get information, I don't know what. Interfaces, so that's our app or website. Role play, that's an interesting thing for a presentation, right? Sometimes it's really kind of fun and engaging to show how people would interact with your idea, but just playing it through. And believe me, like this, it's going to be important to have a good presentation here tomorrow. And anything that's different and that makes your audience exciting is going to help you to be excited, and it's going to make it a better product in the end. Mark advertisement, storyboards. Storyboards is kind of like a comic that kind of shows what a person would go through when he or she uses your idea. Visualize the process. So even though it's just 2 days, in the end of the, and you'll learn something over the course, and maybe what you learn changes throughout the course of this project. So tomorrow, don't only show, here's the one thing that's really cool. Just tell us how you got there. Tell us, you know, how the information you got has influenced it. Tell us, if you have talked to people, tell us you talked to people. This is going to make it more interesting. It's going to make us believe more that what you have is a good idea. So make it fun and exciting. It is easy to be exhausted and to feel like, gosh, finally we're done. So here it is. Wow. But I mean, how should anybody get excited about it if you're not, right? Like, if you come out here and you show what you have, like, you better believe in it, right? And just be proud of it and just make it a show. It's a show, right? You're on stage. And just enjoy that. That's totally part of it. And give the voice to the people you talk to. So one big thing that we do at IDEO is, you know, it's really cool to do that. And what you do is you say, well, we believe that there's a solution for the water crisis in California, and we believe Berkeley could do this. But it wasn't me saying that. It was him, right? It was these people, and you bring them, and you said, and we talked to Lucy on the street, and she said, yes, if there was a device I could attach to my shower head, I would, right? Like, how strong is that? That's much stronger than saying, like, I believe that this is super, because, I mean, obviously, because it's my idea, right? But, so, in bringing these people to life, showing photos of them, showing quotes of them, is gonna be powerful practice. So, I know it's gonna be a ton of work. I know you're gonna be, you know, stressed. I know going to probably be sleepy. Stop an hour or at least half an hour before the presentation. Just walk through it. The result is going to a large degree, depend on how well you present it. It's just part of it. It's just, I mean, you want to do something that's good, make a good presentation. Don't just expect that you're such a genius that your work will speak for itself, right? No, you're presenting it. It should be something that I think it should be something that's thought through. And that doesn't mean, and you don't have to do this because you suck at presenting. No, everybody has to do this, right? I do this. I talked this through before I came here. It's just something you improve what you do. You improve every aspect of what you do. Okay, and now 4 examples of projects that I did at IDEO.org. And I've tried, again, to kind of relate them a little bit to what's happening here. So this is a planter for, it puts seeds and fertilizer in the soil. This we designed for Ethiopia. They grow a plant called teff. It's the smallest grain in the world. And nobody has ever developed a planting device for it because just nobody else cares about it. And this would help farmers to be more efficient, achieve a higher yield. Pretty crazy thing, because for the last 5,000 years, people have just broadcasted by hand, and they know what to do, and it's for free. But in fact, the problem is they always put too many seeds in the ground, and too many seeds is actually just as bad as too little seeds. In the end of the day, you have all these plants fighting over nutrients, fighting over sunlight. So this would help them to use less seeds and get more yield. But it's a machine, and once the seeds fall out of the bottom, but once they're on the ground, you don't see them anymore because they're so tiny. So it's very easy for these farmers not to trust this technology, because their livelihood depends on it. So they say, I'd rather do it by hand because then I know what's happening, right? So what we have done is we've created these seed hoppers. They're really long and skinny. So as you walk over the field, you can see the seed level go down very quickly, and the farmer knows, okay, something's happening. I get feedback, right? So giving feedback, I think that is a huge important thing. That's low-hanging fruit. I think everybody should achieve that for their idea. And in May's talk, remember, it was also a tube. It was kind of funny, but that tube with the, what was it, backwashing?
Yeah, just the water.
Yeah, exactly, right? So here's this big machine, right? It's crazy. It's crazy that even a human can operate it, but especially somebody who isn't trained has no college degree, right? No, like this, to empower that person to be able to do this, that's good design right there. So let people know how they are doing once they participate, once they use your product. So that's what I just said. Solar lantern, another project. So this is a little torch that has a battery, has a solar panel in the back. It's the tiniest one that this company has ever made. It's $5. That's still like a couple of months worth of a salary for people. So it's a huge change in their lives because they only have open flames. So they have to pay for kerosene. It's a dirty light. So this is like the first electric light that most people will be able to afford. Huge change in their lifestyle. People will be able to study at night. People will be able to cook and eat with light. So you would think they would take this thing even if it looks like crap, because it just changed so much in their life. But the truth is, like, this is like you buying a car, right? It's a big investment. It's something that you're proud of, and it needs to look cool. In the end of the day, like this is an investment. It's a status symbol for them. It shows them that they have achieved something in their life, that they were able to save so much money. So even though we're talking about the bottom of the pyramid and such a basic need as having a light at night, it needs to be cool. And the same thing for you guys. If you design something that has real impact and it really helps people, in the end of the day, it needs to be fun or be cool, or people need to be proud of doing this in some way or the other. It's not just about doing the dirty work here. So, and just by the way, this company is D-Light. They are here in the city as in over the bay. And they started making these things while they were in school. So this is a project that came out just out of a workshop, and today they're a market leader in developing world countries. So as much as this is all fun and good times, this is also, just take this seriously. This is, like, you can, even if you spend a few hours on this can be the beginning of something big. This is for Arohana, a tool rental company. Actually, we were tasked to design a tool rental company, a tool rental franchise. So the idea is smaller farmers, poor farmers, don't have the tools necessary to grow food. So they always have to wait till the big farmers are done, and then they use the tools, but it's not the right time, it's not the right weather or whatever. So, okay, so this is a way for them to achieve better farming practices. And then we talk to farmers, okay, so you have nothing, you have like a stick that you use to plow your field. It's like, if you could have a tool, what do you want? And everybody told us, well, we want a tractor, big red tractor, right? Which was crazy. So there was no understanding for, there wasn't like, okay, give me a shovel, give me a pesticide sprayer, give me something I can, a plow I can put behind my oxen. No, like people just always went all the way because there was not, it felt like if they wanted to have impact, they needed to have the biggest impact they can have. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be worth it. So, I think for us, we had to learn that we have to help people manage people's expectations and help and give them information and knowledge more than just tools. And for them to understand how to farm properly was way more important than them having all the tools in the world available to them. And I don't know, I just feel like that's something that strikes home for you guys too. I feel if you can help people understand why they do this, it is much more important than giving them this amazing thing that now, I don't know, that app that captures everything, that thing that saves every last drop of water. Like in the end of the day, help them understand why this makes sense. And the last one here is this self-cleaning toilet. This is not what we designed, this is what the company had before we came. And they came with us with two main problems. First was usability. Like, these are the instructions to use a toilet. Like, how hard can it be, right? Like something you have been doing all your life long. So pretty amazing how some designer could mess that up so badly. But there was some low-hanging fruit for us, which was good. And then also obviously it looks like a big AC unit, nothing you would dare to step into. And the other thing was cost. So this thing, to erect one of these things is $10,000. And that is a lot of money here, but it's an unbelievable amount of money in India, just for one public bathroom. And again, like a lot of parallels here with this and with Aquaterra.
Yeah.
Clara. Just in terms of, it was so expensive and it was kind of put in place, from outside, just kind of helicopter, boom, done. It feels very impersonal. And people know how much these things are and they're pissed off because it's just a waste of money. And there's no relationship between this product and the community. Like, think about our situation here. Here is the state of California telling you no more car washing, no more using your water on Wednesdays, blah, 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 right? Everybody is annoyed by it. There's no like, yeah, I understand, this is really important, this is something where we have to all help together. No, this is just annoying, right? So to have, and here our approach was to say, hey, we don't have to have this complete thing made in a factory and then shipped there. No, let's use some local laborers, use local materials. Let's have the community make some money off this too. And guess what? Create local ownership, right? So for people to really understand why they're doing it, and for feeling that they are important for the solution, that's huge. Because again, like how much water can I save? How is this going to make a difference, right? It's probably just going to be very little. But I think a big part of me buying into this is that I drink the Kool-Aid, that I think I can help, and I think this, maybe I now start to use your idea, your product, and maybe that helps with a little bit. But I'm part of a bigger movement. Like, this is going to affect anything through as I make decisions in completely other parts of life, right? Maybe it makes decisions. It influences like now that I believe that this is important, that I can be part of this, maybe I'm gonna buy different plants. Maybe I'm gonna do different things on a weekend. Maybe I'm gonna talk differently to friends about it on a weekend. I think if we can if we can show people, hey, you are important, every single one of you, then we're gonna have much more impact than just a few drops of water, or however much it is with the solution that we'll bring. All right, that's it for now. Now you guys have to actually work. Do we have time for a few questions? Yeah. Anybody?
When you're interviewing like random people to get ideas for your work, how do you suggest that we like go up to them, and like how do we present ourselves? Do we just present ourselves as like a random stranger, or do we like introduce ourselves as like oh, I'm working on a project to solve the drought?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, I think since it's a topic that involves everybody, I think you can just be totally frank and just totally say what that you're a student, that you work on this, that you would really appreciate somebody's help. Just be friendly and be honest and be appreciative. I think totally fine. And not everybody might have time for it, but that's part of it, right? Just don't be disencouraged if not everybody wants to talk to you. But no, just walk up to people. You can definitely also, if in other situations, you could kind of play dumb, right? If you want, let's say you want to interview somebody at Home Depot about, I don't know, different faucets or different plants, you don't have to say why you're doing this. You can just pretend to be a consumer and not know much about it, and just see how much of a knowledge he has or what he would suggest. And so there's different ways of doing it, but generally, I think honesty is the easiest way to go.
What is the one thing that most people forget when they're trying to do a human centered project?
What can I say that sounds smart? I feel there's a lot of things that, but I would again, like, don't feel like you have to do it all. Like if you just, I think I don't think there is such a thing. Honestly, if you have time for one interview, that's awesome. Just start there, right? Like, I think it's, I think to me it is just taking enough time for what you do rather than trying to do too many things. I feel like maybe it is just trying to do too much and not really engaging with people, like rushing from one thing to the other. It's like, okay, let's try to talk to 5 people, and then you don't pay enough attention. I think the most interesting part of this conversation is your questions now. The most interesting parts of an observation are often when you shut down your camera, you close your notebook, and then people say, it's so funny. I mean, I've been thinking about this, but and then all of a sudden they say that one thing where you're like, that just made it worth it, right? Just so take your time, allow yourself to be vulnerable, really get in touch with people. I think that's the most important thing. Was that smart?
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Wait, can you tell us the end of the toilet story and like how they made the toilets better, reduced all those instructions?
Well, it's definitely still ongoing, but I mean, India has a huge problem with sanitation, and public toilets are currently very dirty and not safe, especially for women. And so we have kind of created this design with them that is a brick and mortar solution. Very few elements are pre-made in the factory. They're working with, it's funded by the Gates Foundation, so they have been building a few prototypes of this, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of them. But I honestly, I don't know where they are right now. I just know that it's still ongoing.
How
do you recommend funneling such a large problem such as the drought into a smaller problem that we can focus on?
Yeah, that is a really good question, because it is. I say get together with your team and see what you're personally most interested in. I think because it should be something that you think really highly of yourself. Just make something that you think is that's powerful, rather than trying to design for somebody that's a little harder to imagine. So get together, think about a few things. Like again, like is it, I don't know what it would be, but how you would break it down. But what aspect of life is it that where you think there can things can be done? I mean, I like what was said earlier too, right? It doesn't necessarily have to happen all in this community, right? Like how can we? I think it's fair to branch out a little bit and talk about other parts of California. Yeah, and see what you think. It's fair to have a point of view. Like don't feel like this is not science in the sense where you have to evaluate everything and write laws. Like this is something where your own perspective plays a big role, and you should have it. So yeah, get together, find two or three things that you're excited about. Start thinking about it, start researching about it, think about if you can involve other people, talk to other people about it, and go from there. All right? But do you have one more question?
For this one at least, prompt that we're trying to tackle, how do we let people take ownership of a problem that is dominated by an industry that consumes most of it? Like, how do we engage with them on this issue, or just?
Yeah, I mean that's what I tried to kind of talk to on this last one, right? Where you, I mean, that's a fun story. I really have to tell. Like my first project with IDEO, we designed an in-wall heater, an electric heater, and which is. So it's a device that produces heat from electricity, which is, electricity is clean energy, but it's also a very high form of energy. It's kind of wasteful to just make it into heat. But, so we weren't quite sure how the public would think about it, and we talked to one of their salespeople, and he said, don't come with this stuff, right? This is not important stuff. Don't be worried about the energy issue. Where does this all lead us to? In the end of the day, we'll end up living like Europeans, like cavemen, and we switch off the light when we leave the room, right? And I was like, that's interesting. But I think, especially there's like, do you hear my accent? But I think I grew up with turning off the light when I leave a room, right? And I know that the amount of energy I'm saving is tiny, but it makes me feel like no, it's totally important what I'm doing. It's like little things are important. I can make a difference, and I think that to me is an attitude that I have, right? And it's an attitude that I would want to pass on. It's an attitude that just changes how I look at anything that's electric, anything that's energy, that involves energy. And I think if we can help people understand that they are part of the equation, that they can truly, that they can have an impact. And again, like part of it is physical impact, but part of it is just really believing in this issue being important. I think that is a huge achievement, right? It doesn't need to be gallons and gallons of water just because of your solution.